Hello and welcome to Citizen Earned, where I unpack what it means to be the best American citizen from an immigrant's perspective. Previously, I've covered what I'm using as my guide during this discussion. First would be the Declaration of Independence, the Promise of Freedom, the Constitution, which is the manual or the run book of how to run the government to be able to deliver on this promise of freedom. And thirdly would be the Bill of Rights, or the citizen's task, things that the citizens should do to be able to deliver on the promise of freedom. I've covered the First, Second, Third, and Fourth Amendments, and this video will be on the Fifth, to be able to deliver on the passage of the Oath of Allegiance, which goes to protect against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. All naturalized citizens have to take this oath, and in trying to be the best citizen that I can be, this question of how do I protect the U.S. myself on a daily basis has been guiding me, or has been a guide. There are a few, but it has been a guide. So let's look at the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment reads, "No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property, without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation." English. Yeah, it was different back then. All right. Essentially, we all know the Fifth Amendment as pleading the Fifth, which is the right to not self-criminalize. So, if a citizen gets asked a question, they have rights to certain things. Most recently, Miranda rights, or lawyers, or trial by jury, or some of these things. And they don't have to immediately speak or answer the question because it might incriminate themselves. So, in trying to keep things as fair as possible, the Founding Fathers said, well, let's make it so that people can't be forced to incriminate themselves. I don't know how else to say it. That's the only way to say it. It also covers double jeopardy, to be presented twice for substantially the same crime. So the federal government, the police or whatever, can't take you in for what is effectively the same thing, even if they give it different names. The Fifth Amendment also covers due process, which is, being taken, or includes being taken into custody and then being charged, and then a trial by jury of your peers, and so on and such forth, and like all of that stuff, which is also described in the Constitution. And then it covers the property rights, which kind of leads with the Third and the Fourth. Now, okay, what I mean by that is, and what's really interesting about this is, remember, the Third Amendment dealt with soldiers being quartered in one's home, and that an owner has the right to deny soldiers entering that person's home. And the Fourth Amendment was the right to privacy. Back then, it was the right to physical privacy. And in the previous video, we kind of discussed, or I discussed, how that's changing with technology, the internet, phones, and so on and such forth. And there will be many more videos on digital privacy and so on and such forth. Anyway, the point is, those amendments lead to the Fifth Amendment, which I think kind of wraps them all up beautifully. It says, not only do you have the right kind of to your life, your privacy, things that, deal with you, but also your prosecution. Like, you should be treated fairly and not just be an example for some monarch or whoever is in control to be able to keep that control in place and make other people afraid to stand up. Essentially, the Fifth Amendment is to limit the power of what we today know as Washington, D.C., or when we refer to like Washington. There's the regular people and then there's Washington. So the Fifth Amendment is specifically in place to limit their power, or rather to state that the people have these rights regardless of what the people in Washington think. And if there's somebody in Washington that thinks that we shouldn't have these rights, too bad. We still have them. This is an enumeration of the Bill of Rights is an enumeration of natural rights that all free people have, right? Just from the fact of that they're human beings, they have these rights. And although I think it's a nice wrapper to bring the Third and the Fourth Amendment kind of into one place, all dealing with like oneself and the range of oneself, living on the property and in the house and like mental space and privacy and like all this stuff, kind of bringing it together. It also seems to be quite combative. It's just so shall not and will not. It's just so you will not. Okay, but what if these people are the government? Then can't they just do it anyway? So I think up until this point, going through the Bill of Rights, it should be getting pretty clear to see how the founding fathers made sure that the people had the information, had it written down, and had examples of how to push back on the government if they ever needed to, so that they didn't have to fight another war of independence. There didn't have to be rebellion. They put in place ways to address grievances and differences of opinion and differences in how to do things. As we continue on with the rest of the amendments, I think this will become more and more clear. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one.